Okay, good morning. We are in Surah Reish Aleph, Mikvaos, Sif Tes Vav. Just someone wanted me to clarify Sif Yudalid, that when it says that the Noitim Shasan Zeichli, and that's where it's dripping down the side of a cliff, a small wall, whatever it is. The Mayan's dripping, so not such a strong flow. That if you go ahead and you take let's say it's dripping on the side over here, it's dripping off. So at the point before it falls off the side of whatever that falls off the side, you take a board or some sort of cheres, whatever, and you put it at the very top before it starts dripping, and it flows. It continues to flow straight. Then that is enough to. That would be enough to be considered to be considered zeichel, to be considered part of the mind. Right? It makes it it's not nifsak. Anyway, says vav mikveh sheyesh bo arba'im sa, a mikveh that has arba'im sa, umayan kolshu, or a mayan kolshu. Now, the thing with a mayan kolshu is that the ma'isa for tvilas kalim, we pass and you need a ba'im sa. In Kufchaf, we did pass you need a ba'im sa. Mayan kolshu is not necessarily gonna work.
You can't do a mamachat in a mayim kosher?
It says over there that that for tefillas kalim that I look it up. I saw that someone referenced it that I have to remember that for tefillah. I'll look it up one more time, but I don't know if Mayan. Now it could be Mayan kosher. It could be if there's a Mayan salt altogether. I'm not sure. It could be a very thin stream, but it could be it's enough. There's a Mayan saw. To really, I'll look it up, but it was so Akopan, the point over here is Mayan kosher yachol lisha kol ma sheyirtze relite in the soicha v'heim ksherim. And this is the din of what's called zriya. We're going to get to when we get to more practical hilchos mikvos. When they go ahead and there's three, there are three boros. One bor, there's a bor tvila, there's a bor hashaka, and there's a bor zriya which they fill up, which that's where they fill the water up to the mikveh. It's attached to the bor tvila, and it first became a kosher mikveh. And then there's a we'll get into the protein, but there's a pipe, there's a faucet there, whatever it is, a hose, and they pour the water into the borzria, and then that becomes all that mayim she'uvim becomes tahor, and it flows into the bor tvila. So al panim, once you have a kosher mikvah, then even if it's 10 times the amount, that's okay. There's no problem with that. Makes no difference what's first. And the commands of mem the yesh cholkim. We'll get later on. We're gonna go through all these more pratim as we go through the siman. If there's not a ba'im sa, I feel eno chaser el kosher. Even if it's only chaser kosher, enough of the seichel gimel shosha lugin mayim she'uvim pasluhu. If 3 lugin mayim fall in of she'uvim, it passes it. Midrabanan. The raya the Rishonim say is because that's the lowest shear that a person can wash himself with of she'uvim. That's the chachamim mishayir. So therefore, the regoizer that of gimel lugim, the mayim she'uvim falls into a mikvah chaser, it passes it. Below.
Once it was one time and so it has to always.
Well, the beginning is one time emsa, and that's it. And it's fine. Once you emsa.
Down below that, and you put in. That's fine.
As long as it's rove, but we'll get into that. As long as there's rove still in the mikvah, we'll get into that. That's the thing in the when places where there's little rain, so they sometimes it could take a couple of years or more to get enough rain to go ahead and to make a mikvah. But once they hit Arbaim Sa, then they can start start doing a mikvah. כל זמן שהם מקבלים במסע, אפילו אם אינו חוסר אלא כלשהו, אם נפלו לסייכה, if it never hit a במסע, אם נפלו לסייכה גמלוגים, מים שאובים פסלוהו. לא שנה שעבה מכלי, doesn't make a difference if it was מכלי, לא שנה סייכת כסוסוי, whether the guy was trying to let it fill and his shirt was wet and he dripped in and the towel wears a wet towel and it dripped in, whatever. That's still considered the din of Gimel Lugim of Shulchan Lugim Shuruvim. V'chein amara miyatzartzur, or some sort of what's it called? Yeah, watering can. Yeah. Umatil mimikomas harbe l'soicha, and it has a bunch of different spouts. That is okay. Or if he threw it with his, he filled his hands and dumped it in. So this is when you get into now something. This is not. Some say this is not mitam she'uvim, but there's another. We'll see in a minute. There's another psul called al yidei adam, which is machokas rishonim between. I think it's between the Baal Mor and the Ravid, about whether the Adam is Psul or not. I do think we're machmir, like the Raza, that it's it does Psul. So here you have two problems. Here is no kli, so it's al yidei Adam. So it is ma'im psulim. So therefore, if you have gimel lugim and yidei chofnav, it's going to be hard. I guess you have Akopanim, if he dumps it in, feel naflu b'mishnei kelim or mishlosha mizema'at and mizema'at from different kelim mitztarfim. Vedvarim or shemaschil b'kli hasheni ad shanisak kli rishon. It has to be gimel lugi b'vasachas in one shot. So therefore, as long as it's considered one pouring, it can passel. But if one kli stopped pouring before the second one in, ain't mitzdarfim, then they're not mitzdarf, and the mikvah is possible. Feeling hiskil sheni ad shelo pasak harishon dafka mishlosha kelim lamiyarba ain't mitzdarfim. However, we're only say tzirav from 3 kelim. Anything else, we're not mitzdarf. Remember, that's where he didn't have das meikara to fill it gimalugim. Avaim mitchila hayadaita liten kol shlosha lugim. If you im lo nasan elama'at ma'amikama kelim ashahishlim the shlosha lugim pulsel. That's where like the water fell in or something. But if he didn't know the din and he was just trying to, fill, it's only a little bit left, fill the mikvah, even for like 10 kelim, then that would be a problem. Agav, just a side point over here. There's a discussion in the Paiskim, what about by Tfilas Ezra, Teisha Kabin, the person can't get to a mikvah, can't go to it. If he's makbid, or if Yom Kippur, or Rosh Hashanah, whatever it is, so then he's allowed to go ahead and do Tisha Kabin. Shaila is, can you take a shower instead? So Pashtus is, there's no problem. As long as it's one flow, it's fine. But if you but if you start and stop the water, so that it's not, you won't have the Tisha Kabin. Like over here, different kelim, these didn't even apply by that also. Shaila that do with the Chaim Kanievsky was makpid not to use the shower head. He said not to use the shower head because the different streams are like different kelim. Therefore, you have more than and therefore it's a hard it's ribu kalim. I didn't really understand 100% what he means. I had to, you know. Yeah, so I didn't never really understood what he meant because it's if you have das for everything, maybe he understands it's nifs. Maybe he understood it's nifsak that each time since it hits the shower head, because honestly I don't really understand it. I do know there are a lot of places where say like the chai, not a lot of places. I know here people say they're from chai and that they take the thing off. However, there's a lot of I've heard from different rebbeim and. I think Michos Yitzchak, whatever, say it's okay. So I think a lot of Peskim or Mekel, yeah, you're talking about Tisha Kaveh, you're talking about Tfilos Ezra, you're not talking about the, Isur Deraisa and things or whatever. So there's a lot of Peskim who are Mekel. Hagav, im have your Shlisha Lugin biyodov al gabe karka. Let's say you directed Gimel Lugim. You diverted. They would say there was Gimel Lugim water on the thing, and you directed it with your hand into the mikveh. O shenatzu meragli behema kosher. Or let's say there was a pool of water, and there was a cow, strutting through the water, or a horse, and it splashed the water into the mikveh. It's kosher. Yesh, I mean the ragli behema kidim regel adam. Some say no. Ragli behema is like regel adam. B'shneim enu kosher el behavior of karka d'orayam shacha of alov and nitzu. So this is what I mentioned before. Is ayidei adam, which we're machmer for that. If it's we're going to get into concepts later on. It's called hamshacha. Hamshacha is that if it goes on the ground, if it goes on it goes onto the ground. I don't remember. When we get there, that it's matir the water from shuvim. It's matir the water. You can fill a mikveh that way. We're going to get into the pratim. But here, if it's kicked through the air, or if the guy splashes the water with his hands into the mikveh, then that's considered mayim psulim because it's nishave al yedei adam. We're going to get later on also this discussion about taking snow. I think it's consternation. Like, are you allowed to, if you want to fill up a mikveh with snow or ice, if you carry the ice in your hand, and you take the ice or the snow in your hands and you fill it up, you show me that that's a problem because it's hava they adam. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. To Zayim. Hasfog sheboilim bo shlosha lugim. A sfog, a big sponge that sucked up gimel lugim, towel, I don't know, kashanafal the mikvah nisarva mayim beluim bo imay mikvah. And the water beluim gets mixed with the may mikvah. The chayin dli, there's a bucket of water. They're the shapir. They're trying to clean. They're waiting for the rain to come, and they're cleaning the. They're trying to clean the mikveh. A bucket falls in. Shapiv tsar. It's not a bucket. It's a bottle filled with water. A water bottle. A bottle of spring water, whatever. Spring water has gimel lugim in. It falls in. Ubo shel shalugim mayim sheuvim. V'nafal mikveh. And it falls into the mikveh. Below yotzu kol hamayim shebesoichei. And there's still water inside the bottle. Ela shenis arvu. Imeya mikvah, but the mikvah goes in. Lo paslu, it doesn't passel the mikvah. Shelo amru el shosha lugim shenoflu. The gzera was gimel lugim that fell in, and it's arvu kulam imei mikvah. Because there's a concept actually just getting it today. I think today about what's called in the Zvachim, what's called yesh bila. Once if water mixes with water, so then we say that it spreads throughout even it's a little bit of water. It spreads throughout the whole pool of water, the whole mikvah. There's talking about mine tmeim upon him, but that's the idea of yesh bila, that even if it has to be like gimel lugim fall in and spread around, but if it's in a separate kli, we don't say yesh bila because that.
It is eventually going to.
Correct. It says.
So it's not an exception.
Well, it says, well, well, okay, I'll tell you what, 'cause it says over here there's still water inside the bottle, and it doesn't pour out completely. So then
there'll always
it's,
be some molecule of
yeah,
original water.
right. Yud Zayin, Mayim She'uvim Shehayu B'tzad HaMikvah. If you had a thing of Mayim She'uvim, next, let's say you had two holes that you have a mikvah, and then you have another pit that you fill with Mayim She'uvim. It's next to the mikvah. Aval b'shamayim noigim b'mei mikvah, even though the mayim is touching the mei mikvah, lo pasluhu. Let's say there's a little wall. Let's say it's whatever it is. Again, it's gimel lugin shenaflu, and therefore it won't pass the mikvah.
I'm going to know this. Once a mikvah has 40 saw.
We're talking about less than 40 saw. All these dinim here are less than, right now in these group of sifim are all where it's less than 40 saw. Yud Zayin, Yud Ches, Shtei Brechos Zulu Mailam Yizur. Let's say you have two pools of water, one higher up than the other. Let's say it's on like a slope or something, or it's on, something like that. But Kaisel B'neim, and there's a wall between them. Achas mehen melea mayim ksherim. One is full of mayim ksherim. It's without but not arba'im sa. V'chaverta melea shuvim. V'nekev b'nehem. There's a hole in between. Im yesh keneged hanekev gimelugim mayim shuvim nisla. If the nekev is big enough, the hole is large enough that it can contain gimulugim mayim she'uvim, then it passes it. That does passel it. Kama yeheb nekev. How big does the nekev have to be? Gimulugim echad mishal shmeyos ve'esrim lebrecha. It has to be one out of 320. 320th of the pool. There's cheshbonos about this. 1 second. So fine. So it has to be the cheshbon. The Beragola says. I should look it over here. The Beragola says that the brecha. Let's say the brecha is a ba'im sa. The brecha of ba'im shuvim is a ba'im sa. So then a ba'im sa is 960 lugim, 0.1 cheshbon, and so then so it turns out echad shinchaf is gimel lugim. So we're talking about a shear of water. If the nekev can contain, if you were able to figure out that it could be big enough to contain gimelugim, which is 1/360th, 1/320th of for a bar mitzvah, so then that would pass. Yeah, whatever. Again, it's not so common, and you can make cheshbonos yourself about the open. I didn't open up the svarim about the cheshbon of how much a lug is, and how I'll maybe bring it up and go over it. Yud Ches Shtei Brechos Yud Ches Shnei Mikvaos she'ein b'shuv achas behen arba'im sa v'nafal lezel lug u'mechza. There are two mikvaos, and neither of them had arba'im sa. One of them fell 1.5 lugim, lezel lug u'mechza. Another one 1.5 or 2 or more, whatever. V'nitzarvu shnei mikvaos v'ei lug sherim. They won't. They're still. And then you misarve them. You do a shakal, whatever it is. You're able to. So then they're kosher. V'shalom nikral echad mehem shem Psul. The issue is that it gets what the mikveh has to get. Once the gimelugim fall into the water, we're going to see that the only way to batar it is basically to drain the mikveh. We'll have other cases is that you drain the mikveh, and then not only that, but the person, the charge of the mikveh, goes in with a towel and dries it out. If there was a mamash mikveh Psul, then that's what they have to do. You have to take out all the water of the mikveh and then dry it out. I think there's a chumrah nowadays also Nowadays, remember if they drain a mikveh, they also dry it out. We're gonna get to those dinim because the chash of gimel lugim. It's the Mishnah which starts first. We'll get to those dinim later on.
Even if you have a bor hashaka, bor zriya.
Again, when it comes to making mikvahs, they're machmir every single chumrah in the book. Even in America, even everywhere they try to be machmir for everything. Give different shittas rishonim. There's a lot. The thing in mikvahs in the Mishnayos, again, there's no gemaras. There's some scattered gemaras. Is that it goes in the Mishnayos? There's a few different pirushim. There's a bunch of pirushim on from the Ravid, the Ravid, how they the Rash, the Rama, how they understand the Rosh, how they understand the Mishnah, and sometimes you could have 5 different pshatim in the Mishnayos, completely different pshatim, completely different chumrah. Different. It's a lot. Often the Shulchan Aruch himself is machmir for a lot. But we'll get into the Gimel Lugim that if it starts off a mikveh is possible. We'll get into that later. It's not doesn't have. Once have a shame Psul, then you have to drain the mikveh. You can never make a kosher. Well, mikveh sheibar by himself, not the socha Gimel Lugim mayim shu nechach l'shnayim. Then you went ahead and you split it into 2. V'riba mayim sheim I'll call echad behem re'u psulim. They are nechshav Psul.